Episode 5 it is. What are you doing, mate?
Just breathing.
Lovely.
It's easy, isn't it? Easy, isn't it?
Is it, though? That's the question.
It is. What's the point of this, then? Good, see you in a bit. Shortest one ever. 23 seconds singing.
Chris nailed it in the first 4 seconds of this video. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Mate, yeah. Book me. Book me up. My diary's really empty.
Oh, love me.
Pathetic.
So in this video today, we've established that Chris can breathe and he wants to fill his teaching diary.
Desperate and needy.
Desperate, yeah.
So
maybe we'll just leave it there.
Living state. Yes, breathing today. Breathing. Again, it's like I quite like how you put on the last video. Part 1 of 517, was it?
Yeah, 517, yeah.
And this is like breathing. Yeah, I know they'd probably say 101 of 1001.
Yeah.
But today, looking at it's the starting of breathing. It's not the be all and end all, but like the tongue tension exercise is like something to help you along, something to give you something to do and something to help you comprehend what this breathing malarkey is all about, if it's even a thing or is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the breathing topic is complicated and it's chaotic, and this is why you get a lot of people saying different things. You know, do I breathe in? Do I breathe out? Do I belly in, belly out? Do I expand my chest? Do I press my sternum? Do I pretend that I'm going to the toilet? You know, there's so many things.
And then it actually happens. If you've been there,
have you been there?
Ring the switchboard. Not during the singing, but yeah. We won't go there this time. We'll do another one.
Just gonna.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah. See you in a bit.
There's lots of labels and comments about this for good reason. That it's that no one really knows what the hell's going on. But one thing we do know is that breathing is important. In general and
trust me,
it's important in singing. I think there is an agreement on that. So what we're gonna, as you say, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look at, in this complicated world, can we bring some clarity to this topic,
to this natural thing?
Yes, yeah. I mean, because another point there is that what I find one of my hates.
Oh. Keep it positive, man.
One of the things that I notice is that things like Appoggio and whether it's belly in or belly out, a lot of the time we're talking about outcomes as opposed to, you know, how do I do it? I mean, it's almost the same as saying, you know, I want to run a marathon in an hour. That's the outcome I want.
I could probably do that.
Yeah, I thought you. Yeah. How close have you got? How close are you?
Oh, I don't need to. I got nothing to prove, mate. I could, but I got nothing to prove.
How do I get there? I mean, that's unlikely. Let's be honest, that is unlikely in an hour. But how would I make that happen? What things do I need to do to get there? And I think this is what we're looking at today is are there some things we can do to start to address or start to work towards some of the outcomes that may or may not help you in your singing.
I love that, the caveat. And look, let's face it, like, so there are workshops where it's kind of flippantly said, like, how do I breathe? And it's like, well, you can do it already. And it's quite flippant to say that, right? But the thing about singing is quite an unusual activity, let's say. It's sustained, it's accurate in terms of melody. It's not your usual activity, so in a lot of senses, we do have to often have a strategy, and some people happen upon the strategy and some people learn it. Some people learn a strategy and it goes really badly, right? In which case somebody on the other side will go, well, of course you'd have a problem because you can already breathe, you need to do it naturally, but singing is still not really that natural. What it's something like that's come along as like a modern thing, modern being whatever it is, 50,000 years, something like that, whatever modern is in this world of human existence. But the first thing that we could say is like, I think the major mistake that is made is because in the scheme of singing, in the process of creating a sound, breathing as the physical action is the thing that comes first. And it's said you sing upon the breath, blah, 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 all those things. So what happens is the very fuel of your voice, the very beginning of it, and we're ignoring the mind at the moment because that is actually the beginning, that then gets taken as being the highest priority in the scheme of working on your voice. And that actually is a mistake. That's seeing it too plainly, and what we kind of look at is the larynx and the vocal folds. For so many cases, that is the regulator of air leaving your body. So if there are problems with vocal registers, and that's not just like, chest and head or TACT or whatever you want to call it, because vocal registers are more complex than that. They're about vocal fold closure and many actions within the intrinsic muscles of the larynx, right? So yes. When I say registers, that's what I mean. Is that actually vocal registers can manage a whole manner of strange breathing techniques, wide and varied breathing techniques, some not so great, some unusual, but not that bad. But well-trained vocal registers and vocal folds and whatnot can do really well with a multitude of airflow situations. So arguably that puts training vocal registers a little bit higher in the hierarchy than breathing, right? But the obsession with breathing continues anyway. And then if we look at conception, like if you think about singing in a less than helpful way, then everything that you do will be tainted by that thought. So the conception of singing, when someone's working on it, as much as you can't dig into that first thing in a lesson, sometimes you need people to sing first for a while before you can dig into the conception and go, hang on, are you thinking about that in that way? So how those turn up and the hierarchy is actually very interesting in the training thing. So for anyone who's like, oh, my breathing is a problem, I would implore you, if you haven't looked at the registers and looked at the vocal folds with your students or yourselves, then they can deal with it. And you can breathe, with all kinds of stuff. So I think we should say that before we get into breathing, is that's the case against going straight to breathing as the start of the lesson, right? But on saying it, like the reason why we're doing this podcast is you and I still work on breathing with our clients because it is important, and singing is an exceptional activity. So it doesn't make it unimportant. It just doesn't make it necessarily the hierarchical standard of starting training.
Yeah, in at different times and different levels, different stages of training as well, because what you're saying there is that there's value in isolating these different mechanisms, but essentially you'd say that whether it be further down the line, there is something to be said for, well, in fact there's a lot of research to say that what we're really looking to do is to synchronise the control of both or all systems at the same time, which is why things do get a little tricky. And sometimes that synchronicity as well, like it's argued, and it's still a valid point in some cases, that if the vocal folds are functioning and trained in the right way, then the body almost responds to that level of resistance, and it can calibrate to that quite well. In which case there's an argument to say, hey, look, if you get this right, then the body catches up. It might take time, but it does find a way to calibrate to the situation. But I think one of the challenges to that is posture. Like if your posture is terrible, and your posture is born out of weaknesses and misbalances, your body doesn't have an opportunity to calibrate to that situation. In which case, we're back on posture. Are we on breathing, or are we on standing? Are we on living and our modern human existence creating postural issues? So, which again, and that comes to us separating these two systems, which in and of themselves are actually are used in tandem the whole time for those purposes. So the same muscles are being used for posture as they are for breathing a lot of the time. So we're trying to navigate through this by isolating to give some sort of direction for people. But again, the holistic approach here is, everything matters. But that said, is there any direction you can give based on the fact that it's hard to isolate these systems, or it's at least maybe not the most practical solution to do that? What have you got to offer in terms of helping someone breathe better for singing?
Well, you know what? Funny enough, mate, I think, and this is maybe a little bit of an approach or a nugget of information that is a little bit based around why I didn't always either understand what I was doing, so its effectiveness was reduced, or maybe I didn't understand it enough that I just couldn't buy into it, right? And this happens to, I guess, every singer across the course of their training. And so for me, it would be like, for example, I need to on some level, in a very helpful way, understand why I'm doing something and the implications of it being one way or another, so I can kind of go, I can see why that would be a pain in the ass. I'm gonna now train that, right? Or I can feel that corresponding in my voice. So one of the relationships I think that is interesting to look at is everyone will be looking at lower abdominal breathing, as in you breathe low, and when you breathe in, the belly goes out, and when you breathe out, the belly goes in. And lots of people are like, and you shouldn't breathe into your chest, right? Because it's bad to be like that, to be singing like that. And bad, maybe the wrong word. Optimal for all situations, that's maybe a better conversation to be had. But the belly and the chest relationship, if we understand on many levels why it has implications, then we can buy into the training and we can look to exercises to help us with that, right? So let's start with the belly and the chest relationship. Now, for the chest, it's like there's bunches of research. For the nerds, if you want to look at Thomas J. Hickson, respiratory function in singing, it's expensive and heavy, but there's a few jokes in it which makes it easier to read.
What are we talking? Bunts?
Oh, well, that was about £60.
Oh.
So, as you can see, it's not that thick. However, I mean, it's like,
a pound a page.
Quantity, is more important than quality, clearly. But there's lots of information in there that's kind of dry, but you can get it out. Now, what it speaks about in there is one of the catch-all kind of things that is said is that a slightly proud, elevated chest is advantageous in singing, right? Now, one of the reasons why that would be valid is because when we sing, we don't want loads of air to leave us at once. Singing has a controlled expiration of air, and we want it to be reasonably even, not like spiky and uneven. It's hard to sing on that. We get jarred up and all kinds of stuff. So with that in mind, if we take in our lung volume to sing on, and if we see movement out in the chest, that's okay. We want to see movement out in the belly because then we know that the whole system is actually expanding to take in air. When we sing, however, it's demonized to say that the chest shouldn't be really moving a lot on the start of the line, like compressing. You see it go, the sternum go down a lot and the chest move a lot at the start of a line. Now, the reason why that is tricky is because the chest and the rib cage is in contact with a massive surface area of the lung. Let's say, for example, it's 70% covers the lungs. So only, let's say, a visible half-inch of movement in the chest, where it deflates, say, a half-inch all the way round. To the eye, that doesn't look like a lot. But if we take every cubic inch that's in contact with the lungs and add that up, that could add up to litres, not litres. Well, it could actually. Some of the most healthy lung volumes are 6 litres, so it could maybe, who knows, it's going to add up to a lot of air, and often that is going to be too much outflow of air to be singing on really helpfully, and the larynx often responds to that by valving, i.e. squeezing and becoming tense, or can't take it and it breaks open. So that's the implications of when the chest moves a lot at the start of lines, why that that can create so much airflow that the voice hates it. And that is a rationale for going, hey, if we're pretty much a predominant chest breather, that is one reason, and a really good one, why it's not so wonderful for our singing voice. Take the abdomen, on the other hand. People say that, oh, it's good to have the belly moving in slightly as you sing, and you might see that. And the reason why that is more helpful is because the belly is in contact with a much smaller surface area of the lung. Through the abdominal contents, it's in contact with basically just the bottom of the lung. Let's say that was, for example, 25%. So a small movement in the belly, when you add up those cubic inches, it's such a small surface area, that doesn't add up to whatever that is, even a third of the lung volume of air leaving you. So in which case, when we see movement on the belly, it doesn't equate to as much air. And actually, when we look at the way it functions, in terms of outflow, it's more even. In terms of pressure to sing on, it's more even. Plus, the chest is a little bit more loose and flexible to actually expand to take on any high pressure that might be there, or to contract to give us a little bit more welly. So for me, I think it's knowing that information and correlating that to methods of training really helped me when I was learning to my breathing for singing, helped me to understand, customize exercises for clients, understand my own breathing and behaviors and stuff like that. And in which case, I think for teachers of singing and people who are nerdy about learning how to sing, understanding that a lot of movement in the chest and why that is going to be a tricky situation really helps you. If you want to get a bit of a primer on the kind of methods that work around that process, this book is a really good start. It's not the Bible, it's not the be-all and end-all of breathing, but it does go into some useful techniques, and it's not 60 quid either, but it's the same thickness. This is how I judge books. This is why I don't buy them on Amazon. They only show the front. Show me the side.
Yeah, see the depth.
Let's see the girth.
What?
And I'll buy it then, okay?
So we're talking.
Yeah. Anyway, should we move on? But that's called "If in Doubt, Breathe Out" by Ron Morris and Linda Hutchinson. It's about the accent method breathing, and I find that actually it's a very underwhelming. That's a really wrong word. It's not overwhelming as a technique. Certainly not underwhelming, but it's just
at least it's got decent girth for the amount paid.
It's got you really want a good girth, don't you? But yeah, I find it's a nice intro. It doesn't make things too like, oh my god, breathing. And I find as a beginner, it's very hard to get it wrong. It's very hard to injure yourself. So in that case, I think it's a very safe recommendation to begin with breathing.
Yeah. Lovely, yeah. And so two things there for me. One is that that exploration of yours does indicate that you are sitting on the side of the fence that would justify the breathing, the belly out.
Belly out to breathe in.
Yeah.
And belly in to breathe out, which coincides with like how primal sounds activate in the body, activate the breathing mechanism is it would be in that order. As
opposed to that wholesale belly in, chest up situation.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't see that as incredibly helpful. Certainly I wouldn't want to see like belly like that. You can splat that belly out too much per se. But yeah, I wouldn't advocate a catch-all.
Well, I think it's interesting though, isn't it? Because Dr. Tietze, did he call it the pear up
maybe.
shape? But which is the kind of the belly in and the expanded chest approach. But again, we have to accept or acknowledge the fact that we are definitely talking about two different styles of singing. And
massively,
and there is a different, and recent research has indicated that there are the muscles involved in the chest and the neck to enable some of the sound that we want to create in contemporary singing, as opposed to that of the efficiency of classical.
Yeah, and there was a video that I was at a workshop with Jacob Lieberman, which was interesting, and Maria Callas, really famous classical singer, her chest really narrows and compresses on some of the high pitches, which is cool. You know, like I'm not. You can still sing that way. Obviously, she was incredible, but arguably in a classical soprano's highest notes, they require enormous amounts of airflow to be at forte. So if you need an incredible amount of air pressure, then hello, your chest is probably going to be moving a fair bit. But I just think in contemporary singing, we deal with outflow of air quite differently in the intense way. It's very much more, especially in the belt sense of word, there's not a lot of air leaving you, so those kind of processes are minimized. It's more about building a little bit of subglottal pressure to get the volume, rather than just having litres of air leave you in the first second or 2 seconds of singing. So it's a different strategy, and we're always usually dealing with contemporary.
Well, that's it, you know, and in addition to that, you know, the book you showed at the end there, the accent method, that's my thinking on all of these approaches, is that most of them, the foundation of most of the breathing approaches that we see, strategies, are based around, can I spend more time thinking about my breath?
Right, bringing it into the conscious mind.
Yeah. Because it seems to be the only thing we've got to attack this with, and just a side thought for me, after the time I spent researching the effects of meditation on singing, and ultimately coming up with a lot to do with breathing. You know, I just wonder how much of this also has to do with the firing up of the parasympathetic nervous system, and what that does for us as a human, and you know, our expression and our ability to live in a state of flow and create whilst in that state that is said to come as a result of thinking about our breath, and not the many different things that we may also be thinking about at that time. Stresses,
so what for clarity, because I usually leaves my mind, but what's the definition of parasympathetic nervous system? Yeah,
so there's there's three systems, but the two that most people speak about is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is the fight or flight, the feed and breed system.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we are rest. We're in a position of like, we are not fighting for our life. We're not anxious. We're not and all of the hormonal and all the physiological systems that engage at that time in order for us to escape or fight are not said to be engaged at that time. It's logical to just think about the opposite of that. If those systems are engaged, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to punch someone in the face. Whilst also, I want to sing a bit of CeeLo Green.
The combo, the juxtaposition of the two situations is like, now I can understand why this doesn't work.
So that focus on the breath is, you know, we can maybe attribute some of that to that going on. So with that, I just, you know, we're going on a bit here, but I want to just finish with something a bit practical as well, which is something I use in the studio with a lot of people, and it really is working towards this thought of this focus on the breath, and then experiencing a sense of what I like to call flow, in and out flow, and also acknowledging that what we're looking to do a lot of the time when we are singing efficiently is this synchronization of the control of the pitch making muscles and the breathing muscles at the same time, or at whatever time they are researched to be engaged in conjunction with each other. We do not know the exact answer of that. When should my intercostals, when should my obliques engage against when I should bring my vocal fold to duct? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
But what we do know is if we can experience, and I've seen it. I mean, every time I do this with people, you experience a different result, a more freeing result after doing this. And the situation is, step one, blowing out, whilst gently thinking or pressing on the stomach. I like to go over the count of 8. And you sense that stomach just coming in gently. And then when we get there, we can hold for a second. That can change things up as well. But then just allowing the air to enter the body afterwards. And it's important to use that thinking, that terminology of allowing instead of sucking. It often disrupts some of the mechanism, some of the breathing processes that we may have in place from just being a normal human being running around every day. That sucking we can disrupt that by just allowing. And go through that process 2 or 3 times, blowing out over 8. Step 1. Step 2, phonate through that. We're starting to think about, can these muscles start to work in conjunction with the pitch making muscles? Let's not complicate things by choosing crazy pitches. Let's just use something spoken voice. And can I create a non-constricted or restricted state there? Again, not optimal. So that flow of air is being allowed through the folds in a consistent manner, and then you can take it one step further on step 3. And keep going. And I guarantee that 3-step process will get you in a new state of breathing and a new state of sensation when you're singing your songs. Is it optimal for everything? Is it optimal for some intense notes in a rock pop song? Probably not. But it will definitely change something. And I'm sure address a lot of the symptoms we do see in contemporary singing, where we get that initial engagement on the onset.
Well, you know what as well? I mean, in terms of muscle physiology and stuff,
yep.
if by working on new habits that essentially work to relax muscles initially, to give them a break, to start to use them in a way, but by way they can find their like optimal resting length. Because if they're always contracted, they're just short, and then they create problems in the system. But I think if in the case of sorting out an issue in the body, if we are able to get to voicing strategies whereby certain muscles don't contract real hard and they can find an almost a relaxed state, then over time they can start to release that contraction, start to lengthen, and find a good balance in the whole system. And in the end, for someone who does want to sing that rock song, when a muscle is in that more relaxed state and at an optimum length, its ability to contract quickly is improved anyway. If you want a big sound, and finer movements
exactly
are way more achievable. So and in very, very challenging hyper functional sort of singing, we actually really, really value the finer adjustments in muscles. Not that we adjust them consciously, but our conception does it for us. But if they're able to respond in a quick, efficient and fine-tuned way, but they have to be relaxed, you have to go back and go, okay, I've got to chill them out for a bit. So I think it's totally relevant, man, even though the person is a rock singer.
Exactly, and I would almost go as far to say in some ways, in deep down, we are looking at changing our state as a human when we go to sing. I know there's a lot to be said against that, which is, we are one person, and whatever we do, we're bringing everything with us into that moment of expression. But there's also the case of, we are using our bodies oftentimes in our day-to-day in ways that are also really stressful.
Yeah.
And then our body adapts and is conditioned to work in that way, and so we really could say that we have to start our singing sessions, our singing process with preparation, with the right preparation to engage in that new activity. And I really see that, which is stepping out of that stressful state and into something that's going to allow us all these things we just spoke about.
100%. And you said creativity before, like if the most fruitful singing is that of genuine emotional impetus, of musical creation, and in the moment you just do things that take you, that inspire you in that very second, and you sing them that way. With the anxious judgmental state, it's very hard to create voice and then create or be creative in the moment with all that. And most people are like, how do those people like riff so well? How do they create all those like lovely melody changes in the minute, and whatever takes them, they just do it. It's because in general, Zen is the basis, not anxiety. In which case, yeah, if someone's looking to Zen themselves out, then what you recommended initially, without the voice bit initially, is not really a singing technique at that moment. It's getting you in the creative space. That's where all the best final results of singing come from. Creativity, not prescriptive. It's creative.
Yes. Absolutely.
Love that. Yeah, man.
Well,
mate, thank you.
No, thank you.
Like it.
Thank you. Oh, that's a wonderful way
Menu
to end.
cup.
Namaste.
Namaste. Where's that from?
Oh, all the good stuff.
I always thought Namast.
Of course you did. Yeah.
See about her, innit?
Yeah, no.
Fokakiaka. Is that what it is? The old bread.
Yeah.
You know, the old bread. Oily stuff.
Yeah, what is it?
Kiabati. Don't know, mate. Namast.
No.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Went off.
As always, we really enjoy your comments. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. We'll be happily on top of those questions, and just blow up the ego if you want to, or if you're really inclined, share the video with people that you think might find it useful. Maybe in your singing Facebook group or your artist page or teaching page or whatever. We'd love to spread the word.
And if there are any other forums or teaching groups you're involved in Facebook, in the Facebook, it'd be really great to if you do share it, because what we love to see is the conversation on these things.
Yeah.
And if you do share it and kind of throw it and then just walk away and see what happens, it's kind of what we like to do sometimes. Please let us know and point us towards the carnage that ensues after.
So we can contribute.
Yes.
Lovely.
Really interesting. So, lovely. Thanks for your time. Busy one today, mate?
Mate, it's over. See you in a bit.
Good.
Friday, innit?
Yeah, of course. We're back again to the beers. Back to the beers. We're just heading out in 9 minutes. We've got a bit of yoga class, so...
You got to put on your spandex?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, it's too hot for that, isn't it? You're in Arizona.
No, we wouldn't. Why would I wear that anyway?
Trembling in down dog.
In lycra.
Oh my god, my hamstrings. Don't bend your knees. It's like I can't.
Oh.
I got to.
All right.
Yeah. Huh?